Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast.
This is episode 223. This week, we have a revisit of the crossover voting, a sheriff with a spending problem, losers suing, love children never meant to be, and Tuesday's runoffs. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, writer, journalist, owner of GeorgiaVirtue.com, and most importantly, dog mom Jessica Szilagyi.
Hey, Dave.
How are you?
Well, I'm happy to report that Eric and I and most of the people, well, all the people we like, which is not that many people around here, survived the earthquake on Saturday morning.
Did you even notice it?
No. Everyone's on Facebook saying that they, like, the house was shaking, and I mean, I've always been, like, if I'm very few things wake me up, but, yeah, they're like, the house was shaking. Some guy was like, I went outside and the pool water was moving. Okay, well, something's wrong with your pool because it didn't last that long. It was 4 a.m.
You felt the earth move under your feet?
Mm-hmm.
Californians, I'm sure, are laughing their heads off.
I was in the 1989 earthquake.
Were you?
Why my mom wanted to move, I don't recall it, but it's one of the reasons my mom wanted to leave California.
Yeah, that's when Candlestick broke, right? Took a big crack right in the middle of Candlestick Park.
Yeah, she was outside in the yard with me and the dogs watching the waves, like the roads turned to waves right before our eyes, like not the pool trembling a little bit.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was during the World Series, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I'm going off of recollection, and I know you were but a babe.
Yes, I was little.
Yeah, I guess I was 12 or 13 when it hit. But it's, but yeah, we hear about it every so often in North Georgia that there'll be like a 1.2 or something like that, and people say, "Oh, I felt it," or my coffee moved around in my mug. I have yet to feel one.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess some people are very light sleepers and stuff, but some of I guess there's like accounts that you can report to the U.S. Geological Survey, which I'm not sure about the accuracy of that, but that is very on brand for our federal government to report those as true without verifying them. But people were talking about like their bed shaking and their wall. Like if you were in Stillmore where it happened, I can understand because that's ground zero. But like 20, 30 miles away, are you telling me that a 3.9 magnitude earthquake like rocked your world?
Yeah, no, I would have slept right through it.
Yeah.
As I do most things. Yeah, I would have noticed it. No, this week has been just absolute crap up here.
Weather?
Crappy weather, hot, triple digits. Storm knocked out our power at 11. I think it was 11:15 Thursday night, and didn't come back on until 4:30 the following afternoon. And look, linemen work their butts off, and glad to have them. But I kept thinking because I kept seeing the numbers. You know, you can track the outages. Keep seeing the numbers get smaller and smaller. So I didn't get the generator out. So now we have no food in the fridge, and my truck air conditioner's out.
Oh no! Like your work truck or your personal truck?
Well, they're one and the same right now. But I've got a 2019 Ram that I bought new with 46,000 miles on it. That AC is not working.
I would be mad.
Yeah, I'm not happy, and it's black. So getting, whenever I get in it, in the afternoon. I mean, it's 140 degrees in the damn thing, but it's time. I don't have time to go get it into the dealership. The dealerships, they want like 4 days to diagnose it.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell has that kind of time?
Nobody. And they're like, you're like, oh, can I have a car then? And they're like, oh, no, sorry. Okay, well, do you want me to wait here for 4 days? Because this is my means of transportation.
Yeah, what I'll have to do is take, because, in my toolbox in the truck, I carry refrigerant that I need and some basic parts and obviously my tools. I've got to get the van. The van's supposed to be going in. That's the lettered up actual service van.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
That needs to go into the shop. It didn't roll in 2020 at all, and so I'm not going to go. It needs some love before it gets back on the road because I haven't had anybody driving it. Mm-hmm. And before my knee surgery, the truck was a lot more comfortable because the way you sit in a van, you have to bend your knee. So it's just hot. I just have to get a rental car and carry tools around in the trunk, I guess. That looks super professional pulling up in a like a Prius.
That'd be a very woke way to go approach everything.
Yeah, I don't know that it would impress anybody out here. I can't even see my 6. I mean, I'm 6'1". I can't even see myself crammed into a Prius.
Yeah, I've never been in one, I don't think, so I don't think that I don't know. I can't imagine they're terribly spacious.
No, and I think they're disproportionately expensive to the quality of the build. But, it's a rental car, I'm not buying it.
True.
So, we have crossover voting from the May primaries.
Well, I saw this brief little article, so I just wanted to quote circle back to it because we did talk about right after the primary election about how many people had crossed over into the Republican primary or and the allegations of the doing so to impact the outcome of the election. And there was an analysis that came out this week and was included in a column that I read by Mark Hyden, who was a guest on the show at one point, but he is the director of governmental affairs for R Street Institute. And he was just talking about how there's been a lot of sore losers. Like that's kind of the trend after elections now, which is very true, regardless of what your party affiliation is. That we just have this sore loser approach and blame everything other than I wasn't the right candidate or it wasn't the right time. And he linked to this analysis that said 70% of the crossover votes who cast early ballots in the Republican primary had participated in both Democratic and Republican primaries over the last decade. Meaning that, at some point or another, like the analysis didn't go into when and what percentage of when, but I thought it was interesting because, I think that's an important note that it wasn't just Democrats crossing over and it wasn't just Republicans crossing over. And he said, or, crossing over to to try to influence something somewhere else. And his quote in his article was that the data suggests that the vast majority of crossover votes weren't scheming Democratic operatives, but instead highly sought after swing voters. And that makes me happy because, I want more people to be moderate. I want more people to, not moderate in the sense of like, I don't know. I don't like the word swing vote because that makes it feel like you blow in the wind. I like the idea of somebody voting on the issue and the election that is before them.
Yeah. And we have as many people as crossed over as different reasons why. For some people, it's going to be a local election that they typically vote Democrat, but there's a Republican running for county commissioner or something like that they really like and wanted to cross over and vote for him. And the fact that there was nothing really on the Democrat ticket that was a shock. It's not like Abrams was in a tight nail biter of a race.
No, and I mean, really, the only argument you could make that they, had, if that were true, and I just don't, that Democrats had just like come in droves to influence the election, the only race really you could make that argument would be Secretary of State with Raffensperger and Heiss, and because you're telling me that Democrats just lined up to vote for Kemp because they think that he's going to lose to Stacey Abrams. I mean, first of all, he beat her before, and second, he's polling above her right now. So I don't think that that's the case.
Well, it could be a just anti-Trump, is because all these signs out there say not anymore. We got a couple of runoffs going, but Trump endorsed. Well, that doesn't help in a state that presumably Trump lost. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, it was close enough to allow fraud to take it away. So I think these races really demonstrated that the president does not have very wide coattails. And the same's true of Biden for sure. I don't think Biden has any coattails at all. I mean, if I were running on the Democrat ticket, I sure as hell would not have Biden give me an endorsement.
Well, and I mean, Biden just lacks any type of oomph to make you want to get out and vote anyway. I mean, there's nothing there. Literally nothing there.
Well, yeah, he won because it was 2020. I mean, so many things happened that we certainly know better now, I hope. But he was able to campaign from his basement, mailing out ballots, ballot harvesting, all the stuff that we're trying to curb now. But I just don't think Trump has the coattails that he thinks he does. Herschel didn't get into win the primary because he was endorsed by Trump. He won because he's Herschel Dan Walker.
Right.
So I don't see the former president's endorsements going anywhere. I actually don't see him winning in 2024. I think he'd lose in the primary. He's going to be
really.
Yeah. I think
who would beat him?
DeSantis. He is on Fox News several times a week. He's out front. He's leading. It's not anything against Trump, but he's no longer relevant. Because he can't lead in his current position. I mean, he can be the leader of the party. He can say stuff. He can't even say stuff on Twitter right now. So he has been effectively silenced. I mean, he has some surrogates out there. He's got Laura out there and Don Jr. and he's got some surrogates out there. But I don't see it. It'd be very, very tough to put your vehicle in neutral and then gear it back up for another nationwide presidential campaign.
Yeah.
But then again, I never thought he was gonna win either.
Yeah.
And it's not. I'm not rebuking his policies. I mean, certainly my investment accounts looked a lot better 3 years ago. My gas tank was a lot cheaper to fill up 3 years ago. So we have a story over at the Georgia Virtue. Burke County Sheriff has no receipts for $40,000 in credit card charges.
Yeah, this one was a doozy. So 2 weeks ago now, there was an article that appeared in the local newspaper in Burke County, which is between Augusta and Statesboro. If those are probably the main cities that people would know. but it's just south of Augusta, where Plant Vogel. If you've heard about all of the projects at Plant Vogel, his deputies patrol that area. He's from that area. Alfonso Williams is his name. He's been police chief in a city there. He's very popular, very well liked amongst community. I'm a fan of his. I think he has a great perspective on law enforcement. He spoke out about the Garrett Rolfe, Rayshard Brooks shooting and talked about why it was justified. And he's a black sheriff in a rural county with a different take on law enforcement. And he also came in very underfunded and immediately asked for better salaries for his guys, did fundraisers to buy things for bulletproof vests because they didn't have any and certain equipment. That was in 2016. So I've been super impressed with him. Well, this article came out in the local newspaper where he's now suing the county commissioners over funding, and he wants to be 100% in control of his own funding. And so there's a lawsuit that's ongoing between he and the county commissioners. It's very contentious. It's been contentious for a while now. And so the local newspaper reported on it and said that he was hiding money from the commissioners. So he called a press conference the following day and he led with this article in the True Citizen is bullshit, and kind of went from there and just basically obliterated the article, saying there was more to the story, that it was wrong, that it was reckless, all this stuff. And so I got tagged in it, and I'm like, well, Burke County's not really adjacent to where I am, but it's adjacent to the county that is adjacent to me, so it's not that far. And I'm like, no, I don't need to get involved. And then, of course, I'm like, well, I really want to know, what's the rest of the story? So I file an open records request asking for these financial statements and everything. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this might be a good opportunity to vindicate him from what he's saying. He's talking, because he's had a lot of money. So Plant Vogel has donated $375,000 to him in the last 8 months to help fund his sheriff's office. And so I wanted to know what that money was being spent on. Well, then I found out that $40,000 of that money that he spent, of the $375,000, he spent $105,000. $40,000 of the $105,000 went to credit card bills. So naturally, I'm like, hey, I would like to see the receipts to these credit card bills, because $40,000 is a lot of money. But at the same time, I understand that, I live in rural Georgia too, where I don't always have access to things. Got to buy stuff online, have it shipped to me, whatever. I'm still optimistic here. And his financial advisor emails me back, copying the sheriff, and lets me know that they don't have any receipts, that the process is for the sheriff to print out the bill, print out the portal, not the bill, just the portal, what you log into the credit card payment site and see. He signs his name and dates it, and then they write a check. That is when he signs his name, he's acknowledging, yes, this is the credit card amount due, and yes, this is how much I spent, and that's it. Which is you want to talk about reckless and bullshit? That's a reckless and bullshit process for maintaining government records. Because that you're not even, I guess, in one way, he's not putting his financial advisor in a position to lie and say that these are legitimate government expenses. But there's no check. It's only the sheriff's word. And based on the portal that, they also told me that they don't have credit card statements, which they said they never received one. And I'm like, okay, well, you can log into any legitimate banking institution online. If they're not sending you one in the mail, they have to make one available. Hello, does anybody remember Dodd-Frank? Hello, all this disclosure stuff. So I can see generalized things, if he spent some money with Delta, I just don't know where he went, and I can see hotel charges. Well, as it turns out, he spent $16 $1,700 on hotel fees, $2,400 on airfare, $3,300 on food while out of town, $1,200 on rental cars, and $10,500 on office events, $2,700 at Walmart, and he has 0 receipts for any of it. So, between what I came up with when I put all the numbers together from what I could see, and then when they told me that they had no receipts, that totally changed the trajectory of my story. Like, I really wasn't even going to focus on the credit card, but when you come back and say that...
Well, I've had company cards when I was working in corporate America, government cards when I was in the Army. You don't get to just spend and say, okay, write them a check.
Mm-hmm.
If it's travel, there should be a corresponding reason for going. Like the amounts aren't necessarily out of line. I don't know what a sheriff from Burke County is traveling around doing. I understand if there's one where there's a sheriff's conference and
absolutely,
and he goes to Topeka and rents a car.
No, no, a sheriff. I mean, we're talking about sheriff conferences in Savannah and Atlanta, I think, and Macon and places like that where all of our sheriffs go. I think that is reasonable. I tried to cross-reference with those types of things, and there were some things that I was able to rule out simply because, I didn't really question the ones in Atlanta and Savannah because I thought that by default that would be for some legitimate purpose. He's also on that committee that oversees, that decided whether or not, what's his name, Victor Hill from Clayton County would be removed from office while his indictment was pending. He was on that. So, he travels around the state. Miami, Boston, Little Rock, Mississippi. And so then I went to his personal Facebook page, and he has so many posts public because I think he likes being in the public eye. And, when he paid for parking at the Miami airport and bought dinners and stuff like that when he's going out of town, he's posting on Facebook the same day that he's off to Belize to see a friend. Why else were you at the Miami airport? It's just not a good look. And then the fact that you have no receipts, sure, some of this could be explained with receipts. And I think that is totally reasonable. But obviously, most of it can't, because if it could, you'd have the damn receipts.
Well, how many vests could you get with $40,000? Yeah, how many repairs could be made to the county jail?
Well, and his argument and what he said in the press conference before I even wrote the article, the press conference that kind of prompted this was, it's not government money. It came from a private source. And that's that. And I'm like, and he also said, our partners, talking about Plant Vogel, they never have questioned how we've spent our money and our discretion. And I'm sure that's true. I don't think he's a liar, but my question would be did they know? Did you tell them? Because this only they gave them $375,000 in August, September, October of 2021, $125,000 each time. So I can't imagine that Plant Vogel is going to ask a sheriff to provide a monthly report just because first of all, it takes a little time to get things going. And second, I'm assuming they probably think he has other things to do. And he really has done. Again, his financial practices are separate from his perspective on law enforcement. He's done a lot for Burke County. He's reduced crime tremendously. His efforts, what he's doing with his deputies and the community and the trust in the community is valuable. But he's paid for that. He's paid dearly for that, or he's paid fairly for that from the state. That doesn't mean he gets to use any of this for his personal use just because he's doing a great job.
What also becomes income.
Sure.
You know,
that's exactly right.
So when he's using it for personal travel, and look, we all, when traveling for business, will fit in a long weekend. If we're going, if I've got to be in Savannah for something, for a meeting or whatever, I was not above booking myself to stay, instead of flying back Friday, fly back Sunday and have a day to hang out in Savannah. But there was always a separation of this is what is legitimate and I'm expensing to the company, and the hotel nights of Friday and Saturday night, which were not work, pay for out of my own pocket. If he can get popped on tax charges.
Sure. I mean, that's what they got the city councilman in Statesboro, or a former city councilman on Will Britt that we've talked about that's going to be sentenced soon, was tax evasion. I mean, that's like the go-to charge. They came up with that for the mob for this exact reason, Yeah,
that's how they got Capone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they didn't get him. I don't think they got him on a single murder.
No, it was all tax stuff. And then we, of course, have mail fraud, which is the other go-to that we see charged by the feds a lot. But aside from all that, to me, it's just, it's brazen and it's disrespectful. And, when he's in an argument with the county commissioners, and I don't doubt that it's for the right reasons. Like, the county has been stingy with their funds for them. And we've talked about, like, public safety is not something you make money on. I mean, whether it's police, fire, EMS, it's not a money-making service that the government provides. I don't want a private police force, so I'm willing to accept that, public funds are going to be expended for this. But the county has been less than forthcoming with allocating things that they need. And so he's suing them because in Georgia, a constitutional officer, like we've seen this time and time again with sheriffs, they have the right to sue for funding for their constitutionally ordered duties, which is to maintain the peace and preserve the jail and secure the courthouses. Those are the three constitutionally required things that a sheriff is required to do, but are constitutionally ordered things. But in the midst of all this, if you aren't, like, you should be keeping absolutely impeccable records during this time, so that when you go to court or when the media comes to you and says, how have you been maintaining everything since you took it all and decided to do it on your own? You have like too much paperwork. Like you've got your invoice with the receipt, with the copy of the check, with a printout of the whatever. I mean, like, just signed by two people, just thorough as can be. And that's not what's happening here. And it doesn't matter to me, it doesn't matter if every single one of them was legit. I don't know how they could be, but it doesn't matter how they could at this point, because you have 8 months and 150 transactions worth of stuff totaling $40,000 for which you have no record. And that shows a total disregard for the people and your donors.
Well, and it sounds to me like it's on purpose. You can't prove I did anything wrong if I don't keep records.
And if you had a Delta receipt and you had 149 others and you had a Delta one that you couldn't find, sure, we'd all be like, sure. But like in that sense, you'd be like, well, if we don't know, you can't prove it. If some entity were to come in and look into this, they're going to have a lot more authority than some person from the media to find out what was used. I mean, in Oak Park, they went in and got the receipts from Walmart. Law enforcement did.
Yeah.
So, and that's just, in this case, that's only $2,700.
All the information's out there.
Right.
It'll take somebody motivated enough to go and get it. And look,
and with subpoena power, but...
Yeah. the good stuff he's done could be washed away with something. At best, this makes him a very poor administrator. Like he doesn't have a secretary that he can go lay the receipts down. Everybody I know who travels for business, unless you're a business owner, and even then you keep your receipts. But you would if I pick up a $400 dinner, who's it with? What was the purpose of it?
Right.
Because it's
totally
really hard for me to explain a dinner at New York Prime with just Connie and me, and say it's a business expense. No, that's income.
Totally. And, I guess he doesn't think it's a problem, and I can't make it that. Someone asked me after the article came out, they were like, are you wanting like criminal charges? Or are you wanting, like, what do you want to happen? And I'm like, I think it makes me irate when I see people be reckless with, because you can say they're private donations, but as soon as they hit the sheriff's office bank account,
it's public funds.
It's public funds, and not to mention he deposited that money into the same bank account where he got a grant from the housing authority. So he has commingled funds to compromise all of it. So all of it is under scrutiny at this point. But
Vogel didn't make a donation to him.
Correct.
Vogel made the donation to the sheriff's department. They said, "You're underfunded.
Office.
You're underfunded. Here, let us help because you keep our employees safe."
Correct. And it's gross to me. But at the end of the day, and I'm not just saying this, I would say this about anyone, because a lot of times, even when I think they're total, complete pieces of crap, public officials or elected officials or whomever, a lot of times it's really hard to get rid of them. So I would say this whether it was somebody that I despised or somebody that I liked prior to finding out what they've done. At the end of the day, I just want you to do what's right. So if from the day the article came out and you got busted, you just decided to go ahead and start keeping receipts, that would be sufficient for, I think, me and most reasonable people. I'm not saying that his good outweighs him being held accountable. If some other agency is going to come hold him accountable, they're going to do that regardless of my opinion. I also know how difficult it is to get people to be held accountable, so I won't hold my breath. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 7 years, and I've seen one arrest, and I had nothing to do with it. So, I'm not. That's not the goal. The goal is to fix it.
What you want is irrelevant.
But I'm talking about from
you're
after
making sure
the fact.
the people know what's going on in their local governments. It's not that you necessarily want him thrown in prison or you're calling for a GBI investigation, but the taxpayers of Burke County need to know what's going on. And I don't care if it was a private donation. I guarantee you it wasn't Vogel saying, you kicking him a couple bucks and hey, go wild. But again, we don't. It could all be legitimate. I don't know why he's paying for parking in Miami,
unless he's taking off to Belize the same day.
Right. I don't know how that would be a legitimate charge. But if there was in fact, it should all be searchable. And it sounds like not keeping receipts was a willful thing.
Indeed.
I guarantee you all that information is out there. It would take the GBI or FBI to go and do it. This is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over at thegeorgiavirtue.com. So, former congressional candidate files lawsuit against runoff contender Hunt, Fox News, and Brian Kilmeade, looks like.
It's a real doozy of an article or story, I guess.
Yeah, so the underlying basis or underlying idea is that Fox News was putting one of the folks in the primary on TV a bunch and not the other people running.
Right. So the argument is that, or the claim is that there's been an effort to meddle and undermine with these, quote, infomercials. That's how they're referring to them.
Huh. Well, it would be a landmark lawsuit if it were one. It would be big, because we see candidates on TV all the time. When Larry Elder was running in the California gubernatorial race, I think is what he was running on. Yeah, Larry Elder was on Fox News all the time. Hell, he was a spokesman for some joint medicine or supplement or something like that. And his face was on Fox News all the time.
Well, what's so nuts to me, though, is that there are a ton of people who aligned with Mr. Johnson's position, which was the Lynn Wood, Candace Taylor corner of things after 2020. And they abandoned Fox News and went to OAN. So my thing is if the people you're trying to reach aren't there, why do you care? And right. Fox News is national. Like, I don't know. I mean, the number of people who, I would love to know the numbers about the number of people and we won't ever find them out because it's not going to get this far, because this type of case, I mean, they're saying that it was $3 million worth of appearances, and therefore Johnson is entitled to $3 million less his one appearance. I guess they're doing that by airtime and what it costs. I don't, but
yeah, they're calling it racketeering.
Yeah. I know someone else who recklessly uses that word.
Yeah, defrauding the rule of law in Georgia, undermining the integrity of Georgia's elections.
Acting in clear defiance of federal election laws and campaign finance laws, and bypassing and hoodwinking the voters of the 2nd Congressional District of Georgia, all to enrich defendant Hunt. To me, again, I'd want to know how many people in the 2nd District, which is represented by Sanford Bishop right now, by the way, a Democrat, and Republicans have run, and that district is drawn Democrat, that's gerrymandered blue. It is so blue. It is one of the poorest congressional districts in the country. It was the poorest congressional district in the country for, I don't know, like several years, a couple years ago. Everything's kind of gone to hell in a handbasket, so I'm sure we've all declined. But it's a blue district. So, I mean, you're not going to win anyway.
Probably not.
Absolutely not.
And the voters who are going to be voting in the general election aren't sitting around watching Fox News.
No.
Or OAN.
He also ran in the jungle primary. I believe he ran, I'm certain he ran as a Republican, but, when there were 22 candidates, including Candace Taylor and Kelly Loeffler and all that jazz. So, of course, his 2-time loss caused Hunt to just slap him pretty hard in his response, calling him a twice-failed candidate, desperately seeking his last 5 minutes of fame. And they're saying that Hunt's opponent in the runoff, Chris West, put Johnson up to it, and, this lawsuit will be dismissed as quickly as Wayne Johnson was dismissed by the voters of the 2nd District. It's telling that Chris West refuses to denounce dirty tricks like these often played by the radical left against true conservative candidates, which I hate that crap, like the real conservative, the trusted conservative. Like, we all know that when you get to Congress, most of them are the once was conservative. So please spare us all. But yeah, the dismissed as quickly as the voters by the 2nd district, like it's a zinger.
Yeah, it's good. He's not helping anybody. The sore loser stuff does not help anyone. Endorse if you really want to get Democrats. If you really think the Republicans have a chance in the district, you endorse the winner. Say best of luck. The goals for America, the goals for the district are beyond any one person, and we need to get Republicans back in control of Congress. Something to that effect. And that's, off the top of my head, and I'm sure these learned, experienced politicians could make something smoother than I just spit out. It's just you concede, you endorse, you move on with your life.
Well, and it's not like he lost by like 1,000 votes or something. I mean, there were 5 or 6 candidates. He got 18%. The 2 top vote getters got 37% and 30%, respectively. And he was 7,058, to be exact, votes behind the lowest vote getter in front of him, Chris West. So, I mean, it's not like... So he's saying that Fox News cost him 7,000... What did I say? 58 votes? I mean, that's a little... Really?
Yeah, but even if this were to go through, how often has Kemp been on Fox News and Fox Business? Vernon Jones. We see this all the time. There's a Senate candidate from, I think, North Carolina that frequents one of the I think the Gutfeld show. We see this all the time, that they have people who are running for office that have something to say will go on TV as a pundit.
Well, and they're also a lot of times ranked by how they're polling. So if he wasn't polling near the top, I mean, does that sound, is that the right way to do things? From a small, independent, limited resource media outlet, I would say, no, I don't think that's the right way. But they have enough money and enough resources to do whatever the heck they want, and they're going to do what the ratings suggest. And so it starts with how people are polling. It's not like when everyone qualifies, Fox is just like, oh man, let's pick this guy. I mean,
well, you're right. It is 100% ratings driven. There's a broadcaster by the name of Stephen A. Smith, and he's a writer also. He covers sports, but he always has these polarizing opinions, and ESPN loves him because it gets people engaged, whether they love him or love his opinion or hate his opinion. It'll get the Twitterverse and the Facebook feeds flying with what Stephen A. Smith said, because that is good for their ratings. Same thing goes at a news agency. It's why they run so many opinion shows. It's because it drives ratings, love them or hate them.
Yeah,
But they're under no obligation to give equal time.
No, he referenced some Equal Time Act, and that it's a violation of America's campaign finance laws. You would really struggle, first of all, to prove that. Second of all, you have to, what about the other people below you? Weren't they, arguably the people, you came in third, arguably the people below you were harmed even more.
Right.
If that's your, I don't know, it's so stupid.
I don't know. So we have Herschel Walker, love child, never meant to be. I guess we now have 2. He's got more kids popping out than Kevin Costner.
He has 4 kids.
Kevin Costner had it in Field of Dreams. Just keep coming out of the woodwork.
He has 4 now, but only one of them we knew of when the campaign started. One came out last Tuesday or something, and then they announced, or he revealed 2 more. His argument is that, why do I need to talk about my kids? Like, I'm running for office. Why would I subject them to that? I'm inclined to agree. I don't know what it has to do with him running for office. However, I mean, when you run for office these days, like, it's kind of like a given that that's just what, I'm not saying it's okay, but like, it's, look what they did to Donald Trump's kids, like, and they're adults.
Well, depending on their ages, but look, it doesn't shock me that he's got multiple kids. Herschel's a good-looking guy, very famous, fairly well off, and professional athletes. Honestly, they travel, and women will target them because they know that's an 18-year meal ticket.
I'm not going to respond to that.
Oh, it's a thing. It's so
I
much
know,
so that,
but I mean,
it's so much so that in rookie camps, a lot of times they will have people come in and talk to the kids coming out of college, going into pro sports. They understand these women know who you are, and that's just a fact. Speaking of Fox News, a guy Tyrus Murdoch, who's a professional wrestler, he's got several kids around, and now he's married and has a little girl with his wife now, but he had several kids before. A famous person who made his living traveling, and doesn't make it right, and certainly doesn't disqualify him for running for office. I also believe all this research was out there, and Warnock was sitting on it, waiting, because Herschel was polling for the primary.
well, of course. I mean, this is for sure. I mean, this is not a secret. Like, and it's not like it would be that hard to find out he had more kids. Like, those kids have said over the years to somebody, my dad is Herschel Walker. They're adults now.
Yeah.
They're
they're in high school. And who is that Smith kid that runs like Herschel Walker? Oh, that's Herschel Walker's kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is one of the things that keeps good people out of politics. I'm not judging Herschel Walker one way or the other on it, but there are a lot of things that people just don't want out there.
Well, it's not relevant. I mean,
it's not relevant. It's not policy based. And look, I said before, Warnock is running some good product out there. He is running some good ads, and he took the gloves off. Warnock is a practiced politician at this point.
Well, and Warnock, they're essentially tied right now. Like, the polls have them both at 46% with 3%, or I'm sorry, 6% undecided. So you're not going to win people over by making them feel good. You're going to win people over by tearing other people down, because you need someone to say, gosh, I could never vote for him because of X.
Right. And that's the problem is I view voting as hiring somebody for a job. I don't care how many ex-wives you have. I don't care how many kids you have. Can you do the job? What are your policies? The problem I have with Herschel Walker is I don't know that he knows where he stands.
Mm-hmm.
And if Herschel loses this with President Trump's endorsement, I think that's going to be the final nail in the coffin for him politically.
Trump?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That his influence is not as wide as he thinks.
Yeah.
So you said they're essentially tied. Kemp is leading Abrams, much to the point they made a few minutes ago.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, obviously, it's not like. I think he's right over 50%. But I think it's going to be. It was so close before. That race is 100% going to come down to turnout.
Yes, and I think the Republicans are playing with their hair on fire right now. There's and we see this with midterms that the party not in control tends to take the midterms.
Mm-hmm. But a gubernatorial race is just so much different than that. I mean,
it is, but it's who's getting him to the polls to the polls? You know, is it are people running in to vote for Senate? Maybe. People are certainly voting for Congress because they see most people tend to vote for divided government. Does it go up and down the ticket? I don't know. Your favorite term, swing voter. Mm-hmm. Those people will vote RD, based on the person they like. And if some of the stuff that Warnock's putting out is not the greatest media in the world, but it really depends on what you're watching. If I'm watching sports, I see a lot more liberal commercials out of Warnock. If I'm watching a business channel, I see the more conservative messages about constituent services. So I certainly don't want to see Abrams in office, but I think it's interesting with the same polling showing Warnock and Walker tied and Kemp with a slight edge. So
and he might just be coasting. I mean, he could be coasting on his popularity from the primary. I mean, polling is it fluctuates so much, but
yeah, it's hard to believe because most people don't respond to polls.
Have you ever been polled?
Well, that's a forward question. I've hung up on a few.
I've never been polled, but I don't answer the phone, so.
No kidding. Anybody's ever tried to get a hold of Jessica, I mean, just don't. Just don't. She doesn't want to talk to you.
I don't answer the phone. My response time for text messages is like 4 to 6 business days. Facebook Messenger is a black hole.
It can be.
Oh, man.
So
Go ahead.
As we drop, we're coming up on runoffs. We've got Jake Evans and Rich McCormick.
In the 6th.
That's the 6th district. Which
is the district that they shimmied Lucy Macbeth out of. Which is interesting because she's now in the 7th, so... there'll still be a 6th district Democrat, but it's just... And Jake Evans, he is Randy Evans' son. And Randy Evans was the ambassador to Luxembourg or something like that. I don't know. The only thing I know about Randy Evans is that in 2013 and 14, he would travel a lot, and all he did was post pictures of his feet on social media. In the bathtub and in his hotel robe and various things. He's like a 60, 70-year-old man. So really, unfortunately, I have transferred that to Jake Evans, and I just can't support. I mean, I'm like, it was awful. But Jake Evans is the Trump pick. Rich McCormick ran last year. Rich McCormick is who we have to thank for kicking Renee Unterman out of office because last cycle. He kicked her out of the running and he was the Republican nominee against Carolyn Bordeaux in the different 7th in 2020. So, in my opinion, he's a champion.
I know you were sad to see Unterman go.
Oh, yeah. I cried tears of joy all night. Could barely sleep. I was partying so hard that her tenure was over. Her reign of terror ended.
Kemp has endorsed Mike Collins against Vernon Jones.
Not a surprise.
I don't like it.
He does live in that district.
That's fine, but everybody needs to run their own race.
I agree, but it's not surprising because Vernon tore him down. I mean, that's just...
I mean, I don't know what Vernon Jones has going for him. Other than, I don't know why Trump even decided to get involved in it. I know Trump was responsible for getting him out of the gubernatorial or Senate race. I can't remember which one it was. Was it the Senate?
No, gubernatorial.
It was gubernatorial.
Remember,
Yeah.
Purdue went in and
Yeah, Purdue came in and got the president's endorsement, which didn't help. I mean, I don't hate it, Kemp getting in, but I just from a strategic standpoint, I think if you're in a race that's just not a contest, there's no real danger. You know, our sheriff out here, Gary Gullidge, is well loved, so he can endorse anybody he wants. When he's running for office, because it won't hurt him. But when you're in a tight race, you need the Republicans who are voting for Vernon Jones also.
Well, but I have to think, and I agree with you, but I have to think that since it's Kemp's home district, that area of the state too, that it has to be so heavily Kemp country that maybe he doesn't think it matters. Maybe he did so well in the primary because he didn't endorse until after the primary.
Well, this is true.
Even though he did endorse people like John King and, Chris Carr and Tyler Harper, I think maybe, I don't know. But he did make those proclamations before. So maybe they looked at it and were like, okay, we're good. I don't know. I agree with you. I don't like when they meddle. But I'm not so. Of all the endorsements, it's the one that makes the most sense to me, simply because it's his home district. Vernon Jones was against him, and I'm pretty sure that Kemp knows Matt Collins, who was a former congressman and is Mike Collins' dad. But
Matt Collins, Clayton County, owned a trucking company, right?
That is him. Yep, that is the Collins. He now runs it. Mike Collins does.
Mac was my congressman when I was in high school.
Just shows you how much they've gerrymandered the districts over the years.
Right. So, Democratic primary runoff for Secretary of State, B. Wynn and D. Dawkins Hagler.
Yeah,
Hagler.
I always say her name wrong, but this one, I think it's one of the most contentious. Well, I think it's the only. There's contested races on the Democratic ticket, but this one is just getting a lot of attention because Wynn is a current state rep. Dawkins Hagler is a former state rep. Wynn is the daughter of immigrants. Dawkins Hagler is a black woman, and she is claiming that Wynn was endorsed by Abrams, and the Democrats are supporting her because she's not black, and they want diversity on the tickets, and so that basically she's being exiled from her own party right now because they want a diverse ticket. That
one's hard. That sheet of music's hard to play.
Yeah, Stacey Abrams endorsed Wynn, and that I think is what is driving this. But and Wynn got 44% of the vote in the primary. She did really well for somebody. She's fairly unknown in the sense that she's new to the political realm. She's been an activist, but on a statewide race, that's a pretty good showing for being. I think she's been elected for 4 years, maybe at the most, or she's in. She just is wrapping up her 4th year, but I don't know. It's an interesting card to pull.
It is. This is another one where if I were Abrams' advisor, I'd have told her stay out of it.
Oh, but Stacey Abrams, heck, Fair Fight and all those organizations have been picking winners and losers for
That's
a
true.
long time.
Get that old pack going and start stuffing it full of cash. All right, Jessica, as we wind down, what do you have for closing thoughts?
Well, just the Bibb County Sheriff's deputy, who's the Mule of the Week, he was fired because he left a pregnant 14-year-old in an interrogation room overnight. And the worst part about it is that she wasn't even a suspect or anything. They just brought her in as a possible witness to a homicide in Macon. And they brought her in around 10 a.m., put her in this room, asked her to sit there. And I guess he had been asked a couple times throughout the day, like, what's going on with the woman in this, or the girl in this room. And he said he was not concerned with interviewing her. He never asked her name or personal information. She gave him the girl gave him her mom's phone number. And he said that he called multiple times, but no one answered. And he tried to contact the grandmother and mother, I guess. And anyway, she was there until 7 a.m. the following day. And the only reason that she got out is she threw a chair at the door and broke it to get out. So he was fired, and he's appealing it because apparently he doesn't think that's grounds for termination. I'm not sure if it is or not, but it's certainly grounds for discipline because, you've basically like kidnapped a child. You kind of have an obligation to let an adult know that you've taken. I don't know how she got there in the first place. I don't know if he brought her there or but regardless, like.
Well, she's 14. She didn't drive.
Right, exactly.
But she was witness to a crime. Obviously, he can't talk to her without a representative or a parent. She can't waive her rights, but she's also was not a suspect. Apparently, she was a witness.
Well, and if she, well, exactly. But if she, I don't know. If she was an adult, you have some sort of obligation to at least be like respectful of her time and not leave her sitting in there just because you have no intentions of interviewing her. Come on, dude.
Yeah, I think the firing's probably going to stand up on that. I think a lot of guys appeal. It's just automatically appeal
of a formality. Yeah. Well, because I think it also helps with his post certification. Which, should he be barred from being a police officer? I don't know. I think that's a little strong. He probably shouldn't be one, but should we? I don't know if like leaving someone in an interrogation room. I don't know. I don't know if I could get on board with that, but he's definitely a donkey of a week. That's for sure.
Nice. Well, as the show drops, we are observing Juneteenth on the federal level,
and on the state level. It's a state holiday.
And state, yeah. I don't care about the holiday one way or the other. I think it's a cool story. I just think the name's stupid. Couldn't go with Emancipation Day. Something like that instead of Juneteenth, a word that doesn't really exist. I guess it does now because it's on the outline. It's not underlined in red. But 2 years ago, it wasn't a word. And look, I've heard about the celebration of Juneteenth for a few years now. That there were towns.
Cobb has been celebrating it for years.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with certainly with the studying history because I'm a history nerd. I just think the name's stupid.
Yeah.
Could have called it anything that was actual word. So, big thank you to Eric Cumby, our editor, to Jessica Slodgy, my partner in this endeavor. I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.
Catch me howling at the moon.